Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Here we are in J.P. Block's apartment. We're going to discuss his book coming out, Deadbeat Dad, which is a complete departure for him from his usual style writing. I'm excited to get into it, but first I wanted to discuss a little bit about our surroundings here. Um, you've met with us before, and you did the photo over your head of the three women you discussed with our during our last visit, and I was curious if any of these other works that are hanging around us are also yours.
Yeah, a number of them are. I think the closest one is right here.
It's right there.
Yeah, and this is a painting of a famous gangster named Johnny Torrio. And he was actually Al Capone's mentor. And Johnny Torrio is credited with turning organized crime into a real corporation, a real business model, and that he felt that in their illegal activities they should do a lot of the same things that legally go on in a business. And there was a photograph of him in a book when I was a child, and the photograph used to scare me, something about the gaze of the eyes, and actually some people used to tease me about it, and they'd run around and show me the picture in the book because they knew I'd get scared. But so I figured as a grown-up I would do the painting of the picture to show that he didn't scare me anymore.
I do particularly love that painting because it looks to me like a painting of a character that Charles Dickens might have written about. So let's talk about Deadbeat Dad, your new book.
Oh, okay.
We're used to you writing murder mysteries, and of course your new book does have murder in it, but it's not really a murder mystery per se. It's about much more than that. And rather than me talking about what I read, we would rather hear you talk about what you wrote.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Deadbeat Dad?
Okay. Deadbeat Dad, first of all, after writing Shadow Language, I wanted to get a lot lighter in tone again, and they were written actually very close together. But Deadbeat Dad, it has a sort of Addams Family humor. I think you could say it's sort of a dark comedy. And what it's about, on the surface of things anyway, is there is this man, he's homeless, he's a double psychotic. He thinks the CIA is following him, he thinks he's from another planet, but he does have a son that he abandoned many years ago. And he follows his son through life, basically. And as a homeless person, blending into the background, nobody much notices him. And he becomes very skillful in spying on his son and sharing his son's journey through life with the reader. Now, the thing about the son that makes things sort of complicated is that the son is probably a serial killer. But that doesn't really stop the father from thinking his son is just the greatest thing since sliced bread. He just has this tremendous pride in him. And the people around the son, the people that are close to him, just sort of go about their business as if nothing is wrong. And what I think the book is really about is love, even though there is a lot of casualties along the way, but that nothing can prevent the love between this father and son. And so love, in a way, is very irrational, maybe a bit absurd, but when you love someone, it's often pretty much there for keeps. Even in this case, where father and son don't ever get much of a chance to meet up until the end, when a whole bunch of stuff happens, and but just from afar, they love each other because they're father and son. And I did draw upon some of my own experience with this, not that I have ever been a serial killer or killed anybody for that matter, but I did have a deadbeat dad. I never saw my father till, after I was 9 months old. That was the last time I saw him. My mother up here raised me while she could, and then shortly after I turned 15, I was basically on my own. I was a runaway teen and had to fend for myself, and somewhat like Nathan in the story, although the situations were different. Sometimes I didn't know where I was going to sleep or where my next meal was coming from. I got very good at raiding people's refrigerators when they weren't looking, and trying to bring up ever so casually, do you have a few bucks? Can I sleep on your floor? And eventually, though, I worked through my problems and I got a PhD, and I'm a college professor and a published author. So everything worked out okay in my case, and in a way I was very happy to write this book with its gallows humor, because I was able to, in a way, find humor in my own life where maybe I hadn't found it before.
That's certainly interesting. It's interesting that you were able to take something as serious about that in your own life and make something humorous about it. One of the things, I'm just curious about this, it's sort of an odd question, but if I, as a reader, were to take your book and blend it up in a blender and drink it as a smoothie, tell me what kind of taste I or any other reader might expect to get from reading this book.
Well, I'd say dark chocolate. And I know in today's world sometimes they even put a little chili in dark chocolate to give it a little bit of extra spice. It's a dessert. It's fun, but it's dark, literally and figuratively, and it goes down smooth, but it's undiluted. Children often like milk chocolate, which is weaker, and adults often prefer their chocolate darker and darker as they get older, with maybe just a little bit of bitterness there to offset the sweetness. Nathan goes through several households. He has a mother that's sort of like Shelley Winters on speed or something. He lives with this supposedly mellow hippie family that are like, Nazis. He, as a runaway, he makes friends with people at this shelter that this strange man runs, whose name is Mr. Rogers, but he's a different Mr. Rogers, and he has all kinds of hidden agendas. Eventually, Nathan and his friend Bosco get married and settle down and so forth. But all along the way, there's, I think, the taste of dark chocolate.
Roger and Bosco do not get married to each other.
No. They each find a woman to marry. In fact, they marry sisters, but the sisters are very different from each other. One is sort of a poetic scholar of Virginia Woolf, and the other one is a Wall Street broker who is really kind of no nonsense, and that's the person Nathan ends up with. She would get along well with Lady Macbeth, I think. So.
Yes. Well, she'd get along well with me because I loved reading about her. I'd like to thank you so much for visiting with us today and telling us a little bit about Deadbeat Dad. I hope everyone really enjoys this book as much as I did. It's such a great turning point in your writing career and so different. And I think a book that will last for many years and the people will love. And again, I thank you, and I give you Dr. J.P. Block.
Well, thank you very much.